Right, so I just finished tape 2 Rage of Bloom&Rage, Lost Records. And yeah, thoughts and feelings. Um, Obviously, spoilers. I'm a little disappointed. I felt like they could have delivered the impacts more powerfully. There's tiny teasers at the end. Perhaps they want to do more, and I don't agree with that. I think they. I feel like. I don't know. I feel like lots of it was predictable, but I preferred when they were going slow. It's an odd thing to say because it was, it is quite slow for most of the tape. But I actually think that was more carefully considered and written slightly better than when they started to push the pace. And then I think maybe, yeah, they just could have done it better, a little better. With like, you had to get Corey and you had to put him in a position where he was chasing you through the forest and all that. But it was kind of like I felt like they missed a trick, never showing us Kat's parents, and that really makes it hard to reconcile with how they let who's letting Corey so far off the hook. He's just gone mental. It's like to the point that it must be so obvious. Surely other people have noticed, like the parents have noticed. Surely they've noticed, and if they haven't noticed, then I don't know what to say. Because it's a massive house they're in. I don't know how much responsibility Corey has to run the business, but it's like, where are the parents? And like literally the place burns on fire and there's no fire people, there's no response from neighbors, there's no adults there, and they're still able to just pin it all on Corey and say he did it all. And it's just like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like in rural anywhere, fires are a big deal, particularly in heavily forested areas. So you respond to that, neighbors respond to that. So I don't understand. There's like no community elements to this game, which is interesting. It feels like the only really community bit was when they're at the bar playing at the end of the first tape, playing the concert. And so there are actually people there and they're, paying the ass or whatever. They're drunk or whatever. I played it very sort of, try to be smart, because again, the most important thing was to get to Kat and talk to Kat, and not necessarily berate her for not telling us that she's got leukemia, because that has no value. Like, she didn't tell the friends because she wanted to actually spend time with friends, and not for it to be super focused around her being sick and people being worried and people pitying her, and I totally respect that. And it's like, that's, I kind of like didn't agree with Autumn being so antagonistic about it, feeling betrayed that she wasn't told, when it was like, by not being told, they're able to have a better experience. Kat was, and that's what mattered. She had the choice. It's her choice. And then Autumn betraying them before they, I mean, and then we just sort of walked it off, and then I stabbed Corey, which was funny. But and the Abyss, I think that's kind of why the hints at the end, teasing at the Abyss actually having value. I felt like the Abyss didn't have value. It was just a hole. And yeah, I really don't see, it didn't do anything particularly magical. Like, saying it was influencing people, maybe. But like, we did wishes that gave us nothing. Like, when MC wished to be strong, they didn't do anything. Unless you want to say the strength was when we burnt down the thing and broke some glass and stuff. It's like, yeah. And then when we were running away from Corey and he's on his bike and I'm just waving my flashlight around so he can see exactly where we are. I feel like it could have been darker. I know that it's a game and you need to be able to see what the characters are doing. So you had like the blue sort of moonlight thing, and the characters themselves actually can't see as well. And I think they could have just gone a bit darker. It would have made the fear factor much stronger and I think would have felt more immersive. But that said, immersion, I think, is where they did well. You do feel like you're in the world, and there's so many moments where you're just sitting and in the scenery and stuff, and recalling memories. And I flubbed my lines with both of them. I couldn't have everyone together at the end opening the box, which would have been, I think, a good moment, honestly. I was sort of sad that I missed that. A little tiny bit sad that I missed it, but then at the same time, if they weren't willing to stick it out, I stuffed the stealth sequence, so, and it almost like wrecked the game. It was just kind of, the game was like, what are you doing? I don't know. I don't regret playing both Tape 1 and Tape 2. I feel like Tape 1 had something going for it until the end, and then Tape 2 had something going for it until halfway. And then it felt like I knew they had to do certain things because there was an incident where Corey gets fired from the ranch, is what they'd rumored before. But then, spoilers, of course, we find out that Corey gets pushed into the abyss and freaking dies. And then Kat goes willingly into the abyss when she can be forcefully dragged into the abyss. And I feel like it changes the entire perspective of the whole game. If no one pushes Corey in and the abyss grabs him and pulls him in, and then pulls Kat in, then it changes the whole thing. The whole dynamic shifts. But I like that there's choices that do shift the dynamic. So I don't want to try and... I feel like the damage was done before that, with the execution of some of the themes. I think was just done not very well. Corey, we could have just used a little bit of Dylan's perspective. I think would have massively boosted it, because Corey's a nightmare, and doesn't sell it enough. I think, even though it does a lot, I feel like it could sell it even more with just a bit more of Dylan's perspective. And also, I feel like we could have shown up at Kat's house during the daytime and then just tried to get in and talk to them, and then failed, and then come back later at night, sneak in. I would have liked legitimate attempt. Even, I think, Swan, main character, asking her mother, I want to go and see Kat. She's got leukemia, and I feel bad that we got her in this situation, and can you come with me so we can go together? And then maybe we'll get to talk to her for a few minutes, and then you can learn more about it. That would have been better. Take the parent with them. I know it's a teenage game thing. You can't have the parents involved. But I feel like it would have just been more somewhat realistic. I think a mother in that situation would have been perhaps lenient and gone, okay, I'll go with you. And we'll see if you can have a chat with Kat for a few minutes and can learn more about what's going on. I think that would have been just very adult and very appropriate. I guess it's a teen game and all that. And I tried to call, and Corey interrupted, and yeah, I played in French, and this is a stream, so the French version I think is fine. I don't know if either of them are particularly well synced, because I have seen the English of the first tape. I feel like neither of them actually, the lip syncing and the facial expressions are particularly great, but I can understand how it is that way, so that doesn't hurt it too much. Yeah, but it's really just the moments where all your friends are together that sort of matter the most. And yeah, so mine, because of the way my decisions went, it felt like it was sort of positive, but then in the present, it was kind of negative that everyone else sort of flaked out and didn't get their closure, which is kind of like stupid on their part, I think. Yeah, but they're murderous. They murdered a boy. He was a troubled boy. He was a terrible human being. I mean, if things couldn't keep going the way they were going. I mean, the alternative is that, say, Dylan just left town and then Corey just sort of spiraled, I suppose, but God, he was an asshole. The tape record function I think is great. I love the collage at the end of all the things I've recorded. I feel like if I did a better job of recording, it would have been really cool. I do think that part of the game is actually really strong. And your memoirs, and you can see all the combined recordings, and they had the dialogue and stuff. And I think that's all right. I mean, again, you need to have some sort of skill with the recording to actually make it look good. I kind of wish it warned me at the start that, oh yeah, if you can record something really nice, it'll look really good at the end. But yeah, if you're thinking about playing this game, don't worry about the spoilers, me spoiling it, because I think I think you'll get immersed enough that it won't bother you too much. Maybe until the end on reflection. But I don't know. I honestly, I don't. It's not Life is Strange tier, first one, but it's like sort of jumbled in with the rest of them, all the ones low. I mean, the tier, the ranking isn't that high. I mean, I don't know. I just think Life is Strange 1 is very powerful emotionally, and that's kind of where everything gets compared to. And this one, I don't think is as powerful emotionally because I think, yeah, the fundamental problem, I think the biggest problem is that Kat gets sucked into the abyss, as opposed to you see her in hospital and then she passes away or something like that and you go to the funeral. I think that would have been much more powerful as a moment, because it kind of feels so weird that Corey disappeared into the abyss and then they just say he's a missing person and then same thing happens to Kat. Yeah, and that, like, Dylan has no response. Like, she should have been in that circle and then had a response to Kat disappearing. I think that's also a mistake. So I feel like we were robbed of some emotional key moments, and then it doesn't have the impact. So yeah, yeah, I just feel like it didn't have the impact. It has an impact, but doesn't have as great an impact as I had expected. And I just felt like there was so much contriving with the Corey conflict in the forest chase, and I just didn't feel like that landed at all. And the cabin, and I suppose that there can be people like that you feel like there's still a chance to use some rational thinking to diffuse the situation, and that's kind of the tease. You think that you're always thinking that there's a chance to diffuse the situation, to course correct, when there never was, and it's just you giving someone way too much leeway. And it's like that's what Dylan did with Corey. She just gave him so much leeway. And like she just sort of submitted herself to him, and it was just toxic because he wasn't always bad. It's just because they're not bad all the time. Also, there's some artifacting, like sort of character black things going up on the screen. I don't know if that was part of the game or it was just some sort of glitches. There were glitches with the with Kat in particular, and her like walking around while sitting the whole time, and a couple of those visual glitches. Apart from that, pretty seamless. Yeah, no, I'm glad it's over, but I hope it's over because I do worry that bit at the end was like, yeah. Strange game. I don't think it delivered. But then I felt like it was hard because of the way that tape 1 ended with Kat's leukemia diagnosis, or the friends learning about it, kind of shifted the dynamic a fair bit, and they sort of went back to where I thought they would go. But the detour was actually the best part of the game, in my book, when things were slow paced. It was actually better. And I sort of, yeah, it's just that they can't deliver. They couldn't deliver the action sequence in a way that was very particularly satisfying. So it was kind of like, oh, that's why you were sort of avoiding that. It just, yeah, and the bit with the deers looked awful. Abysmal looking deers. Ugh. They can have that kind of, blank stare in the eye, that's fine, but just they just look terrible. But I don't know. I think if you play the game as like a romance game, maybe you'll get some sort of satisfaction. I don't know. I think if you play it as a cat romance, then maybe it hits more. But it's kind of like I don't really feel like that aspect was particularly good or well executed. More like it's just more of a time thing. And how he suddenly met up with Nora, I was like, we were struggling to contact her. I called her and got nothing. I would have liked a scene before that because it felt like such a big deal when we ran into Autumn at the Fawn's Rest, the shack in the woods. I think, and then I stuffed it up. So I was like, yeah. it's a good thing that there's consequences to your decisions. So I think that is one of the strengths of the game on reflection, is that there are so many different permutations. But I don't know. I don't particularly feel massively like everything was resolved. That's probably the point. I don't feel like I'm not satisfied, I suppose. But that's kind of a bad thing, because it means that they'll want to make another one. So it's like, oh no. But yeah. At least it's a different gaming experience, I suppose. That's the positive. My shitty camcorder broke. And the music, I think the music's done well. The signature song is whatever. But interesting the different versions of it. But I don't know. I feel like if it was more subtle, they could have actually done a proper concert at the pub and maybe would have gotten away with it, and maybe better received. And I mean, people are going to be assholes. It happens. Can't let that, bring you down. Yeah. Tell me what you think in the comments and that, and if you tried out the games, you didn't try out the games, you thought they were some sort of cultural message thing. I don't agree, because they really do. Corey really is an evil dude. He chokes Cat, he bloody abuses Dylan. He's terrible. He's a terrible, terrible person. There's no, I don't really think there's any. You can't defend him, even after the parent died and he's sort of in the ranch for life thing. It's just like, they lock Cat up in a room. It's so just, yeah. I miss the element. If we had the Cat's parents, I feel like it would have just grounded everything better. Any of their parents would have grounded everything better. I would have preferred a scene where all of their parents meet, where the kids meet and just sort of discuss what happened and things, and then we just get better perspectives and more of a, different perspectives that are just bring more depth to the story, I think. Because at the minute it is quite narrow. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of teenage things, is it's always about keeping a really narrow perspective, because that's what you would have at that age. You do have at that age. And then it's like, that means you go down these paths that just don't make a lot of sense, because your perspective is so narrow. And then you have to live with the consequences of that, when you could have avoided those situations with just a bit more of a brain. But it's hard to have a brain when you're in that age and body's going through changes and stuff. It's just like, it is what it is. Yeah, so yeah, that's Lost Records, Bloom&Rage. And that was Tape 2 review. Not the worst. Could have been, I think it could have been more powerful. That's how I feel about it. How do you feel? Tell me in the comments. And have a lovely day. It's been FrostyFire10. Like and subscribe. Bye bye.